Someone once told me, surround yourself with people smarter than you and surround yourself with people that complement your deficit. And my joke is it takes a lot of people to do those things for me. So very fortunate. And again, it goes back to how you're treating your team and your coworkers. We don't have employees, we have coworkers. You'll never hear anybody here say the word employee. If there's a conversation that the word employee comes up, it's about to be a really bad day for somebody because that's just not part of our culture. I'm a coworker. I'm not a boss. I'm not the owner. I'm the coworker. Sometimes they say that, followed by he hates when we say that, but I don't care for the boss role. I don't mind rolling my sleeves up and doing the same job anybody else is doing.
Welcome to the Direct Cremation Podcast with your hosts, Tyler Yamasaki and Will DeMichaelis. Hi, thank you for joining us on the Direct Cremation Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Yamasaki, CEO of Parting Pro. And as always, I'm here with my co-host, Will DeMichaelis, funeral home consultant and former manager of the Omega Society, a cremation brand that at its peak served over 4,500 families per year. As always, you can find links to both of our products and services below. So today's guest is a big deal. Because he's one of the most friendly and most approachable people in death care, he'd probably be easy to underestimate. However, make no mistake, because he is a licensed funeral director, a certified crematory operator, a licensed advanced funeral planner, licensed social worker, and co-owner of a quaint funeral and cremation business which consists of over 16 funeral homes and 2 crematories. He has over 110 employees, and they serve over 3,100 families per year. He's also currently on the board of CANA, past president of the Texas Funeral Directors Association, and also serves on the advisory board of PASARE. Please welcome our guest, Jimmy Lucas.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Pretty good,
Hey,
Jimmy.
How are you?
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome, man. Good to have you, man. Awesome to have you.
And I had to leave some of that stuff out. Otherwise, I'd just be talking.
We go for an hour on your intro.
No. Come on. We serve families. That's what we do. So it's an honor to be with y'all.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Jimmy, why don't you start off by just telling us a bit about like how your family got into funeral service and how that started, and then how you found your way into that business and funeral service in general.
Sure. Thanks, Will. So we're 163 years old. We started out in Grapevine, Texas, which is just north of the DFW National Airport. We sold farm goods, dry goods, and caskets is how we started off. And go out and embalm literally in the home, place the decedent, the loved one there in the home. And that just morphed into modern day funeral care. Yeah. My father ended up, long story short, buying his uncles out generations later. I'm a 6th generation funeral director. My siblings and I grew up in the funeral home. Just like any other funeral family story, like literally every day. Sometimes I'd stay the night at the funeral home with my dad when he was on call. And my dad ended up selling our business. There were 4 funeral homes he sold to SCI in 1987. Dad went to work in Houston for Mr. Waltrip, who he had a lifelong friendship with right up to Mr. Waltrip passed away this year. Yeah. And he was in Houston and took on some various operational entities for Mr. Waltrip. He ended up buying one of those companies and moving it back to Fort Worth. I was in college, not really thinking about it. In my first career, I'm a social worker, as you mentioned, working in Albuquerque. And my dad approached me and asked if I'd have an interest in working with him in the pre-arrangement field. And so that sounded good. I mean, if you've ever worked as a social worker, anything sometimes sounds better than what you're doing. And so growing up in funeral service, I didn't know what to expect as an adult, but got into it and starting making the rounds of all the conventions as a supplier, and really fell back in love with the people, fell back in love with the funeral directors. And so I approached him one day and said, hey, what if we were to try to buy back a funeral home or start a funeral home? And that morphed into, and that was in about 2000, into 16 funeral homes today. So we started from scratch and grew beyond where we were. And it's been a great ride. And it's all about our coworkers and the folks we've surrounded ourselves with, trying to create a culture. You know, looking back at my dad's generation, and like, there are no days off, you know, and now today is, you know, the balance of, it's important to us that our coworkers have that home work-life balance. Yeah. And we're very family centric. We have husband and wives, mothers and daughters that work with us. There's
cool.
Any given day, there's a sick kid that's in the office watching YouTube or something.
Yeah.
That's what
Tablet
we
in
do.
hand. Yeah, sure.
That's right. I know. They're so lucky because when I was growing up, there was no internet. You were prank calling the radio station and
Or
playing
worse,
hide and seek. Yeah, playing hide and seek, trying to get out
there with your hands sitting on your hands, man.
washing the cars and moving
Yeah.
hours. I mean, they got it easy nowadays.
Yeah.
That's in a nutshell what we've morphed into, and we just continue to grow. And we, like you mentioned, we were fortunate enough to serve 3,100 families last year, and
Beautiful.
an additional 1,000 families on pre-arrangement side, and we continue to grow that and focus on what's next for us. I mean, the only thing for sure is change, and it's how we manage that change that will determine our success. And I give props to, oh my goodness gracious, who just passed away. I took his class.
Todd Van Beck?
Todd Van Beck, that stuck with me. He said that in the leadership class, and he was so spot on with that. He's a great guy. But yeah, that's kind of the direction we're going. We don't have a number of funeral homes in mind. If it makes sense that we can continue to provide amazing service to families that we're serving, that's what we want to do. We want to be relevant, want to grow. And, you guys have seen this. Our profession has changed. As I tell folks, this is not my dad's funeral service any longer. Consolidation has happened, and it's continued to morph after SCI. Then you had Carriage, you have Parkland, you have all these other players now that are coming on board, and we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to serve families, and I don't look at that as a competition, other than we're all trying to serve the same community. But we do realize that we need to be at a certain level, big enough to survive in that pond, and that's our goal.
It's an admirable goal. It's a real simple way to think about it that makes it always achievable, being receptive to change. I like that perspective a lot, Jimmy. I have a question a little bit on your background as a social worker.
Sure.
I've always had the opinion that, social workers are underrepresented in this field and quite well represented in hospice and healthcare fields. How do you think that your background in education and social work and actually practicing social work benefited you with growing your business, how you handle, being a leader, and even like managing people? You got 3 digits worth of people, over 100 people. How does that kind of play into kind of who you are as a leader and business developer?
I'll break that up a little bit.
Sure.
And so I use social work every day. We all do, whether we know it or not. I just happen, to have a degree in it. So I feel very connected with families on that level. When someone's lost a loved one, our goal is to meet that family where that family is, not where we think they are. So applying those principles, and 113 coworkers. I mean, oh my gosh, someone's always having a horrible day, right? Someone's having a relationship problem or a financial problem. So that is my family, and that's the way I look at it. Like, I've got 113 family members, and I'm responsible for their subfamilies. So that's a big deal to me. So meeting all my coworkers where they are, and having those relationships. And you said managing people. We did away with management a long time ago. We believe that in all of our locations, we don't have location managers. We have location leaders. I personally would rather be led than managed. And so our location leaders their job is to lead their team, and their job is to manage the business. So we manage the business, but we lead our people. And I think that's, once you wrap your mind around that a little bit, it makes sense, because nobody wants to be managed, I don't believe. Some people need to be managed, but who has time for that, right? So
right.
We try to surround ourselves with folks that want to be led. And then, it doesn't matter if you've been here for 30 years or for 30 minutes. You can show up and be a leader. A leader is action.
Yeah.
And so that's important, and that's impressed upon, and we love that. We love that feedback. And that's one of the things when we're visiting with new folks is like, hey, if you see something that doesn't look right, or you think, hey, there could be some efficiencies here, let's have a conversation. We all get stuck in that zone, if you will, that we've been looking at the same sheet of paper for a long time, and new fresh of eyes is one of the reasons we brought you on, is to speak up and be yourself. So I think I went completely off the rails on that answer.
No, that was really good. I actually wanted to just comment there. I think when we first started working with you on the cremation brand, I think it was mainly, it still is kind of driven by Amanda.
Yeah.
Shout out to Amanda. She's amazing. And to be honest, like
awesome.
I knew there was an owner, but I mean, she was the one that drove everything. She was the decision maker.
I do whatever she says.
Yeah. I didn't meet you till like a couple years after that. And I was like, oh, who's this guy? Because Amanda's the boss.
Yeah.
He comes running in there with crazy hair and they just tell me what to do and I do it. So that's my job. That was a hard transition for me, waiting on families every day. That was when we first started. Like, we didn't have casket delivery. We saved the $30. We went and picked it up ourselves. I mean, we didn't have people cleaning the facility. We did it ourselves. And so over time was sitting in front of those families, falling in love with being a funeral professional and educator. And I've heard it on your show with other folks. It's, every option, every family, every time. That's right. That's correct. But above and beyond that is to be an educator and be an expert in what you have to offer. And the word value, we hear that a lot in our profession, and people automatically put a dollar sign on that, and that is wrong. It's an emotional value. Mm-hmm. If we focus on an emotional value of the healing process, that's our job. We're at ground zero for that. And if we focus our articulation and why ceremony is important based on an emotional value, then there's no sales. And when there's no sales, you've got people making selections to celebrate a life. Now, I did get off track on that one, but that's a rabbit hole.
That's a well explained. That's a nuanced explanation of things that we've touched on many times on the podcast. Yeah. That's a different nuanced answer, which I really like. I really like that a lot.
So, but Amanda is great, Tyler, and we love, and not to overplug, but we love our relationship with you. We do. Yeah. You guys have never said no to us for some of the crazy, I'm not going to say the word stuff that we've asked for. So thank you for that.
No. Thank you.
And I just imagine I've got 15 people like Amanda, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I mean, you must to have that many people, to be that like successful and have everything running smoothly. You can't micromanage that level amount of people.
I did that for a long time. That was hard. When you're starting off and you're growing and I was the funeral director, and it's my dad and I, and he's waiting on families, and it was crisis management. It's what it was. And you have to be very purposeful. And someone told me, I'm very fortunate. I'm in a couple of study groups in our profession, big, larger than me. Funeral homeowners, been around a long time, and they gave some great advice to me, is that you need to work on your business and not always work in your business. Yeah. And that took a while for me to swallow, because I was like, how can I not work in my business? I'm here on Labor Day working, but it's like I'm looking at what's next for the week for everybody else. And so it's just different. So once you step outside of that and you acknowledge that and you take some ownership of working on your business, and if we're going to survive in what today's environment looks like, you got to be looking 5-10 years ahead, at least, right? Not just what's tomorrow, not just, do I have drivers for all my vehicles tomorrow? Sure. You need someone else to help you with that if you're going to make that happen for the way we operate. So
it's easier said than done.
It's easier. Well, that's what
I got track shoes on down here.
I want to double click on that and maybe go a little bit deeper. If you were talking to a funeral director that's struggling, that knows that he or she needs to start working on their business and in the business, mm-hmm. What would your advice be for planning that, or really embracing that mindset shift, that attitude shift, and what action should they take to really get their heads wrapped around it and actually do it?
First and foremost is taking a quick overlook of what their business looks like, and what is there. Do they have a leadership, or is just them? Mm-hmm. Just them, and they're doing any kind of business. 500 plus calls, and it's nothing wrong with doing less than 500 calls, but just at the level that we're talking about, then you need to be finding someone to help you, because whether you know it or not, you're making a lot of mistakes. I was. Right. So bringing on an operations leader to help with some of that, and not giving it up, but another person to walk with you in that. And then, what does that look like after that? So we run really lean. So we have location leaders, and we treat our care center, all of our business separately, even though we support one another. And so we have an operations leader, and he's been super helpful for me because, and when that happened, I realized how crappy of a job I was doing. I was like, oh my God, look at all the stuff I wasn't getting done.
Right.
And so I've been able to, it's been a breath of fresh air for me. I'm like, okay, so now I can refocus on some other things. But that mentorship takes a long time. That's not something you just, you go onto LinkedIn or Indeed and say, hey, this guy or gal's for me. We literally officed in the same office, smaller than this office. We officed together for over a year in our desk, like Dumb and Dumber. Our desks were like
facing each other.
It was totally like that. And, we're close friends. And my advice would be, who's helping you to go to the next level and hold you accountable. And that's important. There's a right way to do that. We all say that we want to have constructive feedback. We enjoy constructive criticism. That's all a lie. None of us like constructive criticism. But if you want to be successful, you need to be open to that. And I always show up with knowing that someone's going to make an idea I have better.
Right.
You show up to the party with that. There's no really limit to what you can get done. So
It's really interesting talking to you, Jimmy. It feels like you've reached that level where like you can drop into any business and you would probably make it successful. Not even death care. I think that type of learning,
chaos. We'd have fun, but it'd be chaos.
No, but that type of ability to the way you're speaking about, having to, there's other people that are going to be better at doing things than you. And
well, don't you want that to be so? Especially if you don't plan on selling your business. I have no desire to sell. So if I'm not training what's next here, then it's for naught, right? So I'm a social worker and I went to trade school. So we need some smart people surrounding me. Someone once told me, surround yourself with people smarter than you and surround yourself with people that complement your deficit. And my joke is it takes a lot of people to do those things for me. So very fortunate. And again, it goes back to how you're treating your team and your coworkers. We don't have employees, we have coworkers. You'll never hear anybody here say the word employee. If there's a conversation that the word employee comes up, it's about to be a really bad day for somebody because that's just not part of our culture. I'm a coworker. I'm not a boss. I'm not the owner. I'm the coworker. Sometimes they say that, followed by he hates when we say that, but I don't care for the boss role. I don't mind rolling my sleeves up and doing the same job anybody else is doing.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, I know you have, and I'm assuming there are about 15 of them are more traditional funeral brands, and you do have an online cremation brand.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you thought about starting that and what the decision was to do that, and then like kind of how you keep them separate, right? How do you operate in a way where, because a lot of people are scared of cannibalizing.
I was totally scared. You ever hear of the guy named Jerry Norman? Mm-hmm. Jerry Norman actually started Smart Cremation back in the day. But before he started Neptune Society and ran Neptune Society before they sold to SCI. Mm-hmm. I call him Uncle Jerry. We've been friends forever and ever and ever and ever. And when we got back into traditional funeral service, looking around and the internet, and you see these low-cost cremation providers, and I went to him and asked, like, how do you do this? He sat down and just completely pulled the shower curtain back and showed me everything of, what he did and how he did it. And it was eye-opening into one of the smartest men I've ever met. You can't be afraid of, there's things you can do online, as to protect your traditional brands when you're doing search engine optimization. And so we don't want to steal from Peter to pay Paul, but you can't be afraid to turn something like that on. And for us, what I haven't figured out, there's folks that's their whole business. It only works because of how big we are with a traditional business. And we're in the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan, the third largest metropolitan area in the country, right? So that's helpful. So after talking to Jerry, and it's something that I saw was coming. This is 7 years ago now, I guess. And at that time, online cremation was, you're printing PDF forms out and, you're signing, it's all online, PDF.
Fax it back.
And so I'm not going to mention that they're not in business anymore. So when we hired a web company to develop it, and we were the first, I think, at that time that you could literally do the whole thing online, like payment. The GPL was sent to them. They had the
Nice.
compliance, and so it was cool. And that's more 3 times since then, right? So
Yeah.
we use our care team, folks on staff to help us with that, but we've grown so much year over year that we're looking at how do we, and we don't have our marketing turned all the way on. So what we don't want to do is have disappointed families, no matter if it's the $9.95 cremation or the $10,000 service. Your experience with us is important. So, and we have a really high 5-star Google review, and in our market, probably the highest in our market for what we're doing. And those are all thanks to Parting Pro. I give you guys credit for that. Do a great job for that, and that means that's a big deal to us. And over and over and over, we ask every family, like, how'd you hear? How'd you hear? Well, we read your Google reviews, or we saw you online. And so, staying on top of that, and having a good digital marketer, which we do have, an amazing digital marketer, has been great for us. And I look at where we are in our traditional funeral homes, and we don't market directly in those zip codes, but we don't have to. We still get business out of those zip codes. It's going to happen. Marketing to hospices. My dad and I owned a hospice for about 2 or 3 years, which is a great experience. It was the best and worst thing I've ever done, trying to do that in a funeral home at the same time. But what we learned was, being a social worker, who all the true decision makers were in hospice, and more than that. And my favorite part was the family follow-up piece, that hospices are required to follow up with a family for 13 months. And, that opened our eyes into what's next for us, and having a full-time aftercare program. But anyways, our Simple Cremation brand we're set to serve. We're not the biggest, but we only have one location serving this area. 800 families this year is what they're on target to serve this year. And so we're really proud of that. Amanda and her team have done a great job, and we continue to grow that team. We just brought on a new funeral director. And so I would love to see that grow and go. I have a problem with trusting other people to do my cremations. So that is my deficit, right? Because I want to control the care, custody, and control of that decedent at all times. So we use barcoding through Passari. Every decedent that's brought into our care, it's barcoding, just like at the hospital when you get your little thing. That from the time someone is placed on our cot until they're no longer in our care, I can tell you where they are. Anybody. And I like that. And if we were to really grow this thing and go outside of this market, we'd have to trust somebody else to help us, or we'd have to purchase and open and go big. So we wouldn't have the ability to have 15 funeral homes, traditional funeral homes, backing it up and that infrastructure. So we're able to run with a few people that business really efficiently. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, you answered it, and you gave plenty of
Rambling.
detail. No, it was good. I think just, I was really curious because you've been successful at both, right? We talked to Will here, and he's kind of been all in on the online or the low cost cremation, and you kind of span both. So
I would love to talk to you about that, Will, someday. That whole Omega group out there. I just read about it in little things, but that's like, my brain hurts when I think about that type of volume.
Yeah, no problem at all, Jimmy. Happy to talk to you about it.
Again, I'm always trying to figure out how to be more efficient, how to grow that business, and it's hard to find when you're talking about. I don't know if it was hard for you, Will, but it was trying to run a business that is revenue per call so much smaller than a traditional business. Finding good people to pay them, a good wage to sustain that. It's volume, and then it's efficiency, and try not to burn people out.
I definitely, if I were to redo the last 2.5 years at Omega, I would say very successful exit. I think we could have done better on some of the areas that you mentioned, because I mean, it was during COVID, which is its own set of issues. But I mean, I learned a lot in retrospect and what I would do differently should given the opportunity again. So yeah, it was a madhouse for sure.
I bet it was.
It was a madhouse. We had our own four torts, single location, doing about, probably 4,300 of our own calls, and then about 1,200 cremations for a body donation company. So we were going back and forth with a body donation company twice a week to pick up new human remains, cremate them, and return cremated remains. And it was a heck of an operation. And I mean, just like you, I jumped in doing everything. I was supervising the whole team of counselors, assigning cases to them to meet with families, taking on cases myself, managing the ads, doing all the shippers of cremated remains, which was like every afternoon after 5, I would go down and ship, 5 or 6 sets of cremated remains, earn them, get them out, all that. So there's no rest during
We need
that
more
time.
than 24 hours in a day sometimes.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, absolutely. I know.
Besides the care team, you have completely different or like dedicated arrangers for each brand.
We do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we do. However, if somebody gets busy, I mean, we're a family, so there's kind of we use a lot of Google suites and stuff, so we have chat teams set up, and so a chat will go out to, which is all location leaders, to like, hey, I need help, or can anybody spare somebody, and we support that.
That's it.
At some point when the onesie twosies, but if it becomes like more often, it's like, hey, let's talk about what you might need to grow. I mean, if this is happening a whole lot,
right.
With the time, I mean, I want you not to be stressed out all the time. So do we need to talk about bringing another team member on? And so everybody has their place that they report for work, but we always support anyone on the team, anyone within the family, the network, as we call it.
Right.
Forget about it.
That's a huge testament to your culture, Jimmy. The fact that you can kind of blast that out and the team, wherever they are geographically, responds and, picks up that slack. It's rare to find, and a true gem in terms of, operations and, leading. So kudos. Kudos. Yeah.
It's, people self-select themselves to be a part of that, to this team. And that's what's important is we got a hard job anyways. And, forget about what we all have in our own lives. But when we show up to work, we're committing to the people walking through our front door as having the worst day here. And so if you can't support the person next to you in your office, then why are we here? It's for naught. So that's where we start, trying to find people that work well with each other. Because we've all had that team member that is amazing director, and man, they're just blowing it out of the water, but they just piss everybody off around them, and that they work with, and it's like, this is not going to work for us. I want them to feel supported and loved, and I'm a hugger, and I just want that. That's what I want.
Right.
We're not for everybody, and that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah, exactly. We talk a lot about this on the podcast. A secret weapon can be your authenticity and knowing who you are and trusting in that, embracing that, and knowing that disposition will attract the right people to your business and, perpetuate that culture with, as little effort as possible, natural selection. Yeah.
We love what we're doing here. That's for sure. Are you guys going to be at NFDA?
I will.
I will not, unfortunately.
Are you going to be there?
Yes. I'm on the Funeral Service Foundation board as well. So
nice.
I know.
We'll add that to the next episode. We'll add that to the part 2 intro.
No. But it's funny. They've been really. It's been really a cool experience. And my kids are off. We're empty nesters, so it's like, well, I'm no longer the president of the state association. I need some. I'm a busybody. So Barbara asked me to what I consider CANA, and I said, well, heck yeah, I love CANA. And then my buddy Mark Krause said, hey, would you consider the Funeral Service Foundation? I'm like, well, who's on it? It was me. I'm like, well, yeah, I'd consider that. So So it's a neat group of people, and it's a learning opportunity, right? It's more stuff, and it's surrounded by the people that are sitting on these boards. If you ever have an opportunity, are some of the smartest people. Sorry, not me, but that's why I'm looking at it. I'm like, these are smart people to surround
Right.
ourselves with, and that was it was cool to see like the being a volunteer on the Funeral Service Foundation is like the expectation is you're going to volunteer and get some stuff done. So I've got a whole agenda of my work schedule at NFDA, which I'm really excited about. So I'm like, I can't screw off this year. I got to go out.
Could you
I'm
tell
going to be
us a
on the
little
job.
Could you tell us a little bit about the work that the foundation does?
So scholarships mostly, right? And so, and this is my first year. In fact, I'm going to be voted in this first meeting coming up.
Congrats.
Was it next week?
Congratulations, man.
So thanks. Yeah. So we went through a little orientation, but the scholarships, there's like a handful of different scholarships, and getting a lot of young people involved into these educational programs, into the NFDA. Then there's some scholarships that like individuals will put into this, and the Funeral Service Foundation manages that. And we just got a new executive director and a new team, and it seems like it's gonna go to the next level. And I'm excited to see that. I'm all about what can we do in giving back to our profession. There's always someone out there that just needs a little bit of help, and I would love to go and take that class or take that certification or go to that association meeting. And so that's what they're doing. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and trying to find people that want to give back to our profession. I mean, if we don't invest in ourselves, no one else is going to invest in what we do. So that's what I see the foundation doing, is investing in what our next generation of funeral service. And I'm glad to be a small part of that.
Oh, that's really awesome. What about CANA? I know you're on the board this year.
I love CANA. So it's almost like CANA is like this little gym that the conventions and the summits are pretty small and intimate, and the content is like always top notch. And so it's a great. I like, and I hate Barbara's not going to want me to say this. I like how small they are, and so I don't want to talk about too much because they're going to get really big. But it's if you want to know about cremation and what's going on in like the who's who in the cremation world, and what are the best practices, CANA's it. CANA is coming out with their educational platforms and their cremation arranger training stuff. I had two of my people were in their pilot class. Amanda was one, Tyler, and then another woman that has managed and led a 500 call funeral home for us. And I said, well, let me put my two best in there and let's get their feedback. And they were like, that was legit. So they're building cremation arranger training content that's going to be what's next. It's going to be what you're going to want to send your folks to.
Yeah.
And so I love being a part of that.
Yeah, I've talked to Barbara a little bit about it, and it's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah. She's a neat lady.
She's an
I'm calling her a friend too, so it's like she goes, "I'm going to wait until you're done with your state association stuff before I ask you to come on the board." I'm like, "Oh God, am I in trouble?" No, so we just did our just rolled onto that board in DC 3 weeks ago, and there's some great people. I'm all about getting involved. Get involved. We've got our FTC thing coming up, a little workshop or conversation on Thursday, I believe it is. And man, things are changing.
So you mentioned the FTC. I'd like to get your general.
It's going to be out there. It's going to be out there if I say it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to. We can move right past it. But
satellites linking up, Tyler. They're gonna. So FTC has been around since 1979, right? And the whole thing is, number one, I'm very pro consumer friendly. Let's do away with all the bad actors and what we do, right? And number one, I'm 100% all good with that. But I don't think any of us need the federal government telling us how to operate our businesses, right? So I believe the general price list is confusing enough as as we have to put it together, and then we are articulating that to families. I mean, we go to package pricing that back into it, so then we can. Here's where this is on this crazy page. I mean, you need a degree in engineering to decipher it sometimes. And it's always funny. It's like you have to provide or send someone your general price list. Like they're not going to understand it.
No,
I mean,
you can't.
to them. So putting it on the website, I just say, the lawyers, the bankers, do all these other people have to do that? And the answer is, I think it's just going to cause more confusion. And I think that you can't misquote yourself if you're going to put your pricing on your website. I mean, if you're a cremation provider and it's $6.95, then they get in the door and it's $9.95. I think that's a deceptive trade practice.
Yeah.
So if it's transparent pricing, then it's transparent pricing. I don't think we need everybody putting their general price list on the website. It works really well. We like controlling that narrative and sitting down and explaining that because it's not a conversation that's real easily had over the phone. When you're talking about that, you're talking about arranging, and you want people to come in and sit down and open it up and go through what all that means. But the bottom line base of protecting the consumer, I think, is great. I think that's gotten lost in translation a little bit. I'm not sure that that's what it does. I don't know. No one's called and asked me. That's the first time anybody's asked me about that.
That's an interesting point. That's an interesting point because, I mean, I think I probably asked, 100 clients, like, if I gave you this document, the GPL, could you tell me how much I would charge you for a cremation? And they're like, no, I have no idea how to read this or what needs to be added together or anything like that. So I do see your point in a consumer advocacy, like very binary, like should they have access to it? I think yes, it's better yes than no. Is it actually useful? Not really always. And I think what we're going to find is the successful people are going to use packages that are transparent and use copy on their website so that people can understand what they're buying. And, the GPL can sit wherever it is as a link or whatever, on kind of in the back somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think the winners are going to have elements of transparency. Maybe it's not a GPL, but maybe it's that online arranger or that $9.95 right on the front page, stuff like that. So people can see that transparency.
I agree 100% with you. And our simple cremation that Tyler, we partner with him on, is just that. Here's our packages. General price list is there. You can good luck or call us, and we'll show you where it is on there, right? So, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I think it's always going to come down to how you explain or demonstrate your value on your website. And I think just putting what you said about it's not just a number, it's not going to have the intended effect by making everyone in death care just put a random price on a website or a link to a PDF that, I mean, it's not easy to, even if you were to give your, a colleague's GPL, you couldn't tell me what exactly everything's going to charge if you were to have your own funeral, right? Like,
I've been doing this just for a minute. I'm still get confused when I look at someone else's general price list. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's something that I find really tough is that, again, from the consumer advocacy side, there's no like set structure to these documents either. So each one can be different. Each owner's interpretation of how they have to, display prices of certain things may be different. So it's just very hard for consumers to compare apples to apples with GPLs. Extremely difficult. And it's sad because, if they're looking through GPLs, they're probably not in the best mental state either.
Tyler, did Will just say we should do away with GPLs? I'm just kidding.
I think he did. I think he did.
I think if you did away from GPLs, the natural progression would be towards online transparent packages.
Oh yeah.
I think that would be a natural progression organically.
Well, look at where we are with how we talked about Google reviews, any kind of review. Oh my God. If you anything wrong, people aren't afraid to tell you how crappy you are, and you're fighting for those ones that you knocked it out of the park, and by far there's a whole lot more of those than the dissatisfiers. But nobody's afraid to say that didn't go well, and so we work real hard always doing really well.
And I don't know if you found this, but I found, in the last 5 years of working, families that you thought, maybe they didn't get a 5-star experience, but you tried to work back from some deficit. Maybe you had some issue with the, transport, or, dropped some sort of communication, and you try to work your way back, and, you think that you've done it, but the family is kind of very neutral towards you. And then once they have the cremated remains, they get that review link, and then they give you a 1-star review. So they may not tell you to your face where you screwed up or how it impacted them emotionally. They will keep it inside and then blast you publicly digitally.
Or you work it out and, you smooth it over, and it's like, it's that niece that wasn't even there. Who's this person?
Yeah, coming in like a dumpster fire.
Worked it out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
the negative reviews are much louder, and it's usually a very small minority, but they look a lot bigger and more powerful.
Well, trying to get ahead of those, I mean, you could do a whole podcast on, how to get in front of that stuff, right? I'm sure you have, but it's that's our main focus. Is we want to know early and often how we're doing, and at any time that we veer off course with what your expectation is, time 3,100 families a year, we want to correct course. I mean, because we're human beings, y'all, and you know this. I mean, we haven't gotten to the point that AI is waiting on our families yet. So until then, there is human error in everything we do.
Right.
Don't get me started on flowers and death certificates.
So, Jimmy, you mentioned like prior to when we started recording that you just acquired a business, and I know, getting up to 16, I'm sure you've acquired others as well. And our listeners range from the single owner to people that have multiple. What kind of calculations go into you thinking like, okay, this is a good business for us to invest in? And obviously, I'm sure you have secrets that you don't want to reveal or whatever.
No. It's kind of funny because it's usually I need people to I definitely want people around me because I don't want to make an emotional purchase, right?
Right.
And so this particular one was a guy that's been friends with for a long time. We would go to breakfast or lunch, I mean, for 5 or 6 years, and once a month they're just talking, hey, I got a question, just that great collaborative conversation. And we talked about him getting out and me buying, and I was like, look, man, that'd be I'd love that. Let's talk about it. And then we did that like 2 or 3 times. He had no mortuary management software, and so literally it was the files. And so I went in and got boxes and put everything in a spreadsheet and go, here's your business. Here's rudimentary. How many families, cremation, burial, your contract amounts. I don't know your expenses. Be glad to look at it. He's a smart guy. He just handwritten.
Yeah.
And then we fast forward late last year, he texted me and said, hey, we need to go to lunch. I'm like, all right, great. Next Thursday. Yep. Still want to buy my business? I'm like, it's via text.
Send him a Venmo.
I know. Don't do Venmo. I'm like the only human in the world that doesn't. I'm afraid that I'll make a horrible mistake at 1 o'clock in the morning on my couch. Like, oh my God.
Add an accidental zero. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so we worked it out, and he's a great guy. It's a good business. He serves about 300 families a year, and we made some changes to his packaging, and didn't change pricing, changed packaging, gave the place a facelift, and we feel that we can increase that volume and continue with the level of care. And his heart wasn't centered with us. The way he took care of families was centered with us. And that's important for us. We can't get, going in and buying into a culture that is completely different than ours and expecting that to work for us and or any time in the near future is not realistic. And so this was a really natural fit, and it's been great. So that's how that happened. But it was to those numbers. I had our controller and a father and look at our operations leader and CPA, and we're looking at all this, putting it all together. And I'm wanting to make it work. Right. And so I'm like, okay, let's put some parameters together. What needs to happen realistically, not pie in the sky, for this to work? And we finally got down to it and sat down and had him in and went through the whole thing and made the deal work. But it wasn't like promising, we need 100 more calls. It wasn't anything like that. It's just the tweaks that we would have to make for him and for us to make the thing. And that was good with him. It was good. It was, as my dad says, if it's a good deal for you and a good deal for me, then it's a good deal. So, and it was. And it's going to be a good deal for the families because, he would have never done that with someone else that he didn't know, I think. Yeah. And I believe that. And I, secretly, I don't pat myself on the back, but I knew that what a great opportunity we had because he felt comfortable enough to trust us because that's his legacy, right?
Right.
I mean, my business may be a certain amount on paper, but it's a hell of a lot more than that to me, whatever that number is, because of what I put into it, blood, sweat, tears. You miss birthday parties, Christmases, all the things you do to grow your funeral business. Man, there's not a value. It's hard. And so that meant a lot to me that he trusts us to carry on his legacy, and we won't disappoint him.
Nice. Did you, during that process, did you hire a banker or a consultant to go through, or that was a private? Do you typically do private sales?
Yeah, we typically go in house, but we know all the big players. We'll sometimes make the phone call and say, "Does this make sense to you?" I mean, yeah, I'm a social worker. I'm not a banker. I'm not a finance guy. I know just enough to get me in trouble. But we do have an internal controller, and we have a great CPA, and we have some partnerships with some of the leading funeral consultants out there that from time to time that we've had those conversations. But some of that deal was kind of an internal, that was in-house, and we were able to put that together pretty quick, which was good.
Awesome. What do you see next for the Lucas family funeral homes? Like, is it massive growth mode? Is it, just multiplying what we're doing, getting the most out of what we can do?
I'm going to say always getting better at what we're doing, because we're never done. There's policies and procedures that always need to be updated. We can always be better at what we're doing. As far as growth, we're spread out in the rural community, 2 hours west of here, which is in the country. And here we are in the metropolitan area. For us, what I see us doing is growing in the metropolitan area. Again, we're in the third largest growing metropolitan area in the country, and there's a lot of opportunity here. And so we dabble in Dallas a little bit, but I see that will be an area that we get more permanent.
Nice.
Spoiler alert, right?
Spoiler alert.
Dallas.
Watch out, everybody.
Watch out. I drink sweet tea.
One thing that I thought is really interesting, and you've mentioned this a couple times, but it sounds like you're extremely collaborative. You like to learn from others, and it sounds like also teach and help out others as well. Has that always been part of your MO? Like, have you always been one to want to share and not hold everything close to the chest?
No, I mean, if and I'm not going to get up and I would never probably do a presentation on that, but friendships are a big deal to me, right? And so fortunately I have a lot of funeral home friends throughout the country, and I've made a lot of phone calls asking for help before. And so when someone calls and thinks that I have a skill set that would help them, then I want to share that. I mean, let's start with here's how I screwed up so bad, but this is why it got so much better after. It's like all my successes are based on failure. So basically, I'm going to tell you what I did wrong. Don't do that. You should be fine. That's typically how those conversations start.
Yeah.
Heck, I bought our crematory. When we bought it, it didn't even have natural gas coming into it. That was a funny story, but that's a different.
Was it a surprise to you?
Yeah, I had to write myself up. I was like, oh God, I did that.
I like your lighthearted approach overall, Jimmy. I really like your lighthearted approach. It's very welcomed, I'm sure, to most.
Well, and I would probably have to say that that's a big part of the success that you've had, being able to admit to your mistakes and being very able to identify this is where we messed up or this is where we can improve. Because I know a ton of people that it's hard to understand that they've made a mistake or accept that and to look beyond I messed up.
I know those people.
Yeah, sure.
And it's
Yeah.
to me, it hurts my heart to see that for
Yeah.
them as I'm always looking at how can we make this better? And it's other people that will always make it better. And I don't need the credit. As soon as you realize you don't need the credit for something, and there's a book and it focuses on always, instead of finding people doing things wrong, always find people doing things right. And why don't we just focus on that? And so if you're always focusing on finding people doing things right, and not everybody is a natural at, hey, great job, good job, that positive affirmation. It comes natural to me. Thankfully, it works. It works for me, and it's just who I am. And it's not something that probably would bode well if it was done not authentically. But if you have that DNA, then when you have to have a hard conversations, you've had so many great job, that a boy moments that person's going to value that conversation,
100%.
and they're not going to feel like they're not going to fire me. This person's not about to get fired. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
Because everybody on our team just truly wants to get better when they know that we all genuinely support one another. I'm dyslexic, so my text and emails go out, and they always blast me for what comes out of my emails or text, and it's like, oh yeah, I said that. I know that doesn't make any sense to anybody, but it's the little things that are like, and on an important email, I'm like, can someone proofread this? It's about to go out. But it's that not being afraid of, hey, we can fix the little things, and so we're supporting each other. And for the folks that can never be wrong, it really hurts my heart to see that, because I'm like, man, they're so stuck there that they're going to just eat themselves up.
Yeah.
And push everybody away.
Yeah, for sure. I think that and you being able to trust the people around you are like I would probably attribute to
trust is earned.
Success. Yeah. So what's next for you? I know you're on the CANA board. I know you're also, like I said, on the board of
no other things out there, man. I'm not looking to sign up. When I first started off, it was you signed up and did everything you could do in the community, and I quickly realized that I'm failing because I raised my hand and said that I could do all these things. So I don't do that anymore. I really focusing on the things that I know I can do and hopefully contribute to. I do some stuff in the community, but currently focusing on giving back to our profession, and doing that with Funeral Service Foundation and CANA. I did it with our state association. Still involved with them, do a little bit, but just continue to surround myself with great people, and we'll see where we are. Hopefully, another 163 years. I'll be dead and gone by then, but we'll see.
Yeah, you'll be Jimmy Lucas AI. You'll be Jimmy Lucas.
Nobody likes that idea. Well, they'll be like, "Oh my god!"
You'll be Jimmy Lucas GPT, man. Digital funeral home consultant extraordinaire, man.
Right? Damn thing's not dyslexic. It's been great talking to you guys. I appreciate you letting me come on and just talk. This has been I didn't even realize. I just looked at the time, like, crap, we've been going almost an hour here.
So. Yeah, no. So we can wrap this up, but
no, we don't have to. I'm good.
One of the questions that we always ask is like, what do you think death care looks like in 10 years?
Change. It's going to change, and not just taking a look at what the FTC looks like, but look at your state laws and regulations. Cremation itself has changed, continued to change. It's projected to change. Look at the students coming out of mortuary college. This was a male-dominated field. 87% of my leadership team are female, which is awesome.
Yeah.
They do a better job than us men, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, so I'm going to pay for that one, aren't I?
It's all good. It's all good.
But it's being, and God bless Todd Van Back. The only thing for sure is change. It's how you manage change that determines your success. And anybody that's operating their funeral business the way their daddy did it, not going to be around in 10 years. I can tell you that.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Good advice. It's real, and it's coming, and it's already been here, and we're living through it, and it seems a bit slower, but year by year, convention by convention, you really see these things change, and big moves being made, and big trends coming in, and
consolidation itself.
Right.
The family-owned funeral home, it feels like it's going away. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is.
I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I know how I feel about that, but then some of these companies are really good companies, right?
Right.
And it's almost like they're how do we survive? And you don't have folks wanting to take over their parents' businesses. Heck, I didn't. I wasn't planning on doing. I came to it as an adult, in
Mhm.
a different morphed way, and I'm thankful for that because I can't imagine feeling like that was I had to do that, and so. I think consolidation, and I think you'll have some really, really strong family-owned funeral homes, and I think they'll be at the top of their markets, the ones that
Right.
kind of come together and grow and have a culture that a lot of bigger companies can't have.
Right. Right.
HR to death.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's true. Yeah, it's
Um,
valuable. It's really valuable.
Yeah. All right, Jimmy. It was amazing to talk to you. I think
Great
you
talking
dropped
to you, Will and Tyler.
I think you're maybe almost too humble. Like you've done quite a bit and achieved quite a bit that you say it like it's easy. And I know it's not easy. And I know you've done and people look up to you. So thank
My
you very
grandmother
much.
was my hero, and she was one of the first women in funeral service, and she just said, "Grandson, showing up's 90%." So
Mhm.
I make sure that I show up, and the rest I stumble through. And I think if we all just show up and give it our best, then there can be grace in the rest of it.
Yeah. Great attitude, Jimmy. Really
Awesome.
wise words for our audience. Yeah. Thank you.
So if someone wants to contact you, how could they?
My email's jimmy@familyowned.net. I mean, I don't want to throw my cell phone number out there in case you
No.
crazy person will say,
Nope.
call Tyler.
Nope.
Here's Tyler's cell phone number, and he can get a hold of you.
Nope. Yeah.
Just kidding, Tyler. I wouldn't give that away. Jimmy@familyowned.net. Our office number is 817-284-7271, and they can never find me. So,
Good luck.
good luck.
Thanks a
right.
lot, Jimmy. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Your wisdom.
Tyler, I'll see you at NFDA.
I will be there. All right. Well, for the Direct Cremation podcast, I'm Tyler Yamasaki, always with my co-host, Will DeMichaelis. Thank you, Jimmy, for joining us today. And we'll see you next time.
Adios, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you ever want to know more, please find us at directcremation.com.